In a dilapidated house, two couples were being mercilessly tortured by a thug wielding a dry iron. The thug sneered, lecturing the man in front of him about borrowing money. He declared that if someone took a loan, they should sell their organs to repay it, as only that would make them truly human. Grabbing the man by the neck, he brought the iron dangerously close and growled that they needed to feel pain to understand what it was like for those unable to retrieve their hard-earned money. Suddenly, the thug noticed the woman behind the man fiddling with a phone. Suspecting that she might be contacting the police, he snatched the phone from her hand. However, upon examining it, he discovered she had been texting someone, her son, warning him not to return home under any circumstances. A sinister smile crept across the thug's face as he muttered that instead of punishing the couple, he should take it out on their son. He ordered his men to silence the couple completely so they wouldn't alert the boy. The thugs tied them to a pillar in the house, muffling their mouths. Shortly after, there was a knock at the door. The thug assumed it was the son and positioned his men strategically behind the walls, ready to pounce. The boy entered the house, carrying a bag and walking cautiously. As he stepped further inside, one of the thugs leapt out and struck him on the head. The boy staggered but did not fall. Instead, he managed to remain standing and retaliated with a powerful punch that knocked the thug out cold. The leader of the group, shocked by this unexpected display of strength, ordered his men to attack and kill the boy. A horde of thugs rushed toward him, but the boy dodged their strikes with agility and countered with devastating blows. His punches were so strong that bones cracked under the impact. When one thug attempted a straight kick, the boy caught his leg and delivered a crushing blow to the other, breaking it. Another thug tried to hit him from behind with a chair, but when the chair struck his head, it had no effect. Instead, the boy turned to glare at the thug, who froze in fear. Without hesitation, the boy punched him with such force that the thug was sent flying into a wall. The leader, now desperate, pulled out a knife and grabbed the boy's father by the head, threatening to stab him if the boy moved. However, the boy seized a dry iron and hurled it at the thug, striking his head so hard that he was thrown out of the door. The parents, bound and helpless, watched in astonishment as their son single-handedly defeated all the thugs. After freeing his parents, the boy coldly remarked that if they didn't want him to fight, they shouldn't have been so poor. Then, without warning, he collapsed to the ground, unconscious. His mother cried out his name in distress, Kang Sun-woo. Later, ambulances arrived, transporting the injured thugs and Sun-woo to the hospital. The emergency room was chaotic, with numerous patients being admitted at once. A bespectacled man, curious about the commotion, asked a nurse what had happened. The nurse explained that a high schooler had knocked out 10 gangsters after they assaulted his father. The man was astonished by the tale. Meanwhile, the leader of the thugs, lying in a hospital bed, instructed one of his men to find and kill the boy. However, the thug informed him that the boy had also been admitted to the same hospital. The leader smirked and mentioned that the black bear had just left, implying the boy's fate was sealed. Hearing this, the bespectacled man asked the nurse where the high schooler's room was. She informed him it was room 202. He rushed toward the room, his mind racing. If the black bear was involved, this boy might be facing one of the top enforcers. Upon reaching the room, he peeked inside and saw a towering, muscular man standing before Sun-woo. The black bear remarked that he had been summoned to deal with a mere high schooler. He chuckled and told Sun-woo not to blame him too much. After all, he had debts to collect too. What intrigued the black bear was Sun-woo's calm demeanor. The boy showed no fear despite the overwhelming odds. Sun-woo, without hesitation, pulled out the 4-needle from his hand. Black bear, raising his fist, warned Sun-woo that he would teach him real fear. But before the punch could land, Sun-woo launched a quick counterattack, surprising even the bespectacled man observing from the doorway. However, Black Bear struck Sun-woo with a powerful blow, sending him to the ground. The thug mockingly told him that no matter how reckless he was, charging headfirst into danger with wide-open eyes would only lead to his downfall. He declared that Sun-woo's fearlessness would be his undoing. Yet, to Black Bear's astonishment, Sun-woo stood up again. The boy retorted that for someone who claimed to have everything, Black Bear sure talked too much. Infuriated, Black Bear leaped towards Sun-woo with murderous intent. The bespectacled man, watching from outside, wondered if Black Bear truly intended to kill the boy. Suddenly, Sunwoo dodged the attack and, instead, delivered a powerful kick to the Black Bear's face. The impact was critical, and the onlooker thought he had never heard of a black bear being taken down. However, seeing the black bear still manage to stand, he thought there was no way the black bear, known as the physical king even across the country, would go down so easily. The black bear smiled and said he wouldn't fall after being hit by a mere high schooler. But suddenly, Sunwoo punched the black bear in the head, slamming him to the ground. He then climbed on top of the black bear and started punching repeatedly. However, the black bear grabbed Sunwoo with his hand and used his signature move, the bone crusher. Outside the room, a man with glasses observed the situation and recognized the move. He decided to intervene, thinking he had to stop the black bear. As the black bear tried to crush Sunwoo, he was shocked to find his hands going numb, with no visible effect on Sunwoo. Suddenly, Sunwoo began moving and tried to escape the black bear's grip. The black bear, using all his strength, tightened his hold, but Sunwoo shifted his body upward, loosening the grip, and headbutt the black bear with full force. The collision was severe, and the black bear suspected Sunwoo had reinforced his bones with metal or something. Sunwoo delivered another headbutt, this time knocking the black bear unconscious. The man with glasses told Sunwoo to stop, as the black bear was already unconscious. Approaching Sunwoo, he urged him to calm down, warning that escalating things would create trouble. The man then made a phone call, providing a room number and building address, and instructed someone to handle the head trauma from a car accident. When Sunwoo opened his eyes, he asked the man who he was. The man adjusted his glasses and told Sunwoo he was considering teaming up with him. Confused, Sunwoo didn't understand what he meant. Suddenly, people in PPE kits entered the room, confirmed something with the man, and asked if they should wrap it up. The man in glasses inquired if they could assume the black bear wouldn't regain consciousness anytime soon. The people approached the black bear and started doing something to him. Sunwoo, bewildered, had no idea what was going on. The man handed Sunwoo a card, saying he could give Sunwoo whatever he wanted. Sunwoo took the card, visibly confused. The man explained that all Sunwoo had to do was fight for the person he served. However, Sunwoo crushed the card with his hand and told the man to get lost. He threw the card in the trash and said he wasn't interested in making money through fighting, dismissing it as some kind of scam. As Sunwoo left the room, the man remarked that thoughts could change any time. In the next scene, Sunwoo was in a washroom, washing his face and reflecting on his messy life. He thought about how he wanted to at least fulfill his mother's wish to stay out of fights. Suddenly, his father opened the washroom door and asked what he was doing there, telling him he wasn't going anywhere in his current condition. This angered Sunwoo, who accused his father of being responsible for his situation. He pointed out that his father had been a boxing champion with offers but had done nothing and ended up in debt. Sunwoo asked why his father lacked even the pride to sustain a local gym. Sunwoo didn't know why his father had been kicked off the national team, but he criticized him for not thinking about his sick mother. His father remained silent, listening, before telling Sunwoo to stay in the hospital and leaving the room. Suddenly, Sunwoo felt dizzy and collapsed. His head throbbed, and he realized it was probably because of his lack of sleep. He thought about how his head always hurt whenever he saw his father. Sunwoo hated his father, recalling how he brought home barely a week's worth of living expenses while plagued with injuries. He remembered his father bowing to the parents of the bullies who had tormented Sunwoo in the past. Sunwoo didn't want to rely on his father, who, in his view, believed he had done enough as a parent. Sunwoo felt like he was sinking into a pit, just a high schooler unable to change his life or earn enough for daily expenses. In his past, Sunwoo had been bullied during a part-time job, and this resentment toward his father only grew deeper. Despite his struggles, he couldn't leave home and abandon his sick mother. Sunwoo woke up in a different room, wondering when he had been moved. Checking his phone, he realized he had been unconscious for a while. He noticed a text from his father, who said he needed to tell Sunwoo something. Sunwoo wondered what else his father could be hiding. He called his mother to check on her, but his father answered the phone instead. His father warned him not to return home, as gangsters were hiding there, making it too dangerous. He explained that he had moved Sunwoo to a different hospital room under a false name for safety. Sun Woo asked about his mother, and his father assured him she was staying near a police station in a motel and was safe. His father, unable to stay on the phone long, hung up. Sun Woo blamed himself for the situation, thinking it was his fault for getting involved with those men. If only he hadn't messed with them, things might have been different. Sun Woo hesitated for a moment, reflecting on his chaotic thoughts. After taking a deep breath, he decided he couldn't waste any more time and began running to find his mother. However, as he hurried through the hospital corridors, his phone rang. The caller ID showed his father's number, which gave him a fleeting sense of relief. But when he answered the call, the voice on the other end didn't belong to his father. Instead, it was an unfamiliar person asking if he was Mr. Hang's son. Sun Woo cautiously confirmed his identity and asked who the caller was. The person explained that his father had been in an accident and was currently unconscious. According to the caller, some passers-by had found Mr. Hang after a fall and had rushed him to the hospital. Alarmed by the news, Sun Woo quickly made his way to the hospital room where his father was being treated. When he entered the room, Sun Woo's heart sank at the sight of his father lying motionless on the hospital bed, his head covered in stitches. A doctor approached him and, with a grave expression, explained that the surgery had been extremely difficult. The doctor went on to say that the procedure alone would cost over 100 million won, and that long-term treatment and rehabilitation would require an even larger sum. Hearing this, Sun Woo felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. He sat on a nearby bench, clutching his head in his hands as tears streamed down his face. He couldn't fathom how he would gather the funds needed to save his father. In his desperation, Sun Woo recalled the business card he had thrown into the trash earlier. It felt like a distant thread of hope, but he clung to it. He sprinted back to the hospital room where he had discarded it and frantically searched the trash can. To his dismay, the card was no longer there. Feeling defeated, he slumped to the floor and whispered to himself, blaming his earlier decision to throw it away. Tears welled up in his eyes as he muttered that he was powerless and that it might have been better if he had never been born. Just as he was consumed by despair, the man with glasses appeared in the doorway. Holding up the card, the man asked Sun Woo if he had been looking for it. Sun Woo looked up in shock, unable to hide his surprise. The man stepped closer, his expression calm, and asked if Sun Woo had changed his mind about their earlier conversation. Hesitant, Sun Woo managed to ask how much money was being offered. The man adjusted his glasses and explained that the base prize was 10 billion won if Sun Woo won the tournament. Sun Woo stared at him, disbelief written all over his face. The man elaborated further, mentioning that even without winning, as long as Sun Woo gained popularity, he could earn a significant amount of money. He then asked Sun Woo if he was ready to join them. Min-suk, as the man introduced himself, escorted Sun Woo to his office and presented him with a formal agreement. He placed the document on the table and advised Sun Woo to read it carefully before signing. Sun Woo picked it up and noticed the title, Fighting Ward. Min-suk explained that it was a secret underground fighting tournament where participants gained monstrous physical abilities using advanced doping drugs. Sun Woo frowned and firmly declared that he wouldn't use doping. Min-suk smirked, pulling out a box filled with vials, and explained that the drugs weren't ordinary. Depending on their type, they could transform even a frail, dying man into a fearsome fighter. He reassured Sun Woo that doping was optional, not mandatory. Still suspicious, Sun Woo asked who Min-suk really was. The man apologized for the late introduction and revealed that he was a scout for a VIP participant in the fighting ward. However, Min-suk insisted that his identity was irrelevant compared to the importance of understanding doping. He told Sun Woo that not a single fighter had won the tournament without using the enhancements. Sun Woo remained reluctant, shaking his head. Min-suk sighed and suggested that Sun Woo might change his perspective once he entered the arena. He explained that making it to the top of the tournament would allow Sun Woo to choose a sponsor, who would back him all the way to victory. Sun Woo's patience wore thin, and he demanded to know how the payment system worked. Min-suk calmly explained that prize money was earned through the tournament, not upfront. Shocked, Sun Woo asked why he should even consider working with them if that was the case. Min-suk smirked and pointed out that Sun Woo's financial situation left him with little choice. He mentioned that Sun Woo needed money for his father's surgery and to keep his family safe, which left Sun Woo stunned. How did the stranger know so much about his personal life? Before Sunwoo could ask, his phone rang again. This time it was his mother. He answered immediately, worried something might have happened to her. To his relief, she sounded calm and even grateful. She thanked Sunwoo for paying for his father's hospital fees and for sending bodyguards to ensure their safety. Hearing this, Sunwoo turned to Minsuk, his expression a mixture of confusion and realization. Minsuk nodded and assured him that a safe home had already been arranged for his family, so Sunwoo didn't need to worry about them. He explained that they had no other option but to rely on Sunwoo. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sunwoo reassured his mother, asking her to trust the people he had sent and follow their instructions. He promised to return soon and hung up the call. Turning back to Minsuk, he asked what the stakes were for a prize as high as 10 billion won. Minsuk explained that the 10 billion was just the base prize. Depending on how much people bet on Sunwoo, the total could increase significantly. He recounted that one winner had walked away with over 15 billion won, leaving Sunwoo utterly shocked. Minsuk, however, didn't sugarcoat the risks. He warned that many participants either became permanently disabled or lost their lives in the tournament. Only a small percentage of fighters, around 10%, managed to leave unscathed. Sunwoo was horrified by the revelation and asked how such a deadly competition could remain hidden from the public. Minsuk began explaining to Sunwoo why the fighting ward had remained a well-kept secret despite the high mortality rate. He pointed out that the secrecy was, in fact, maintained because so many participants perished. Once Sunwoo signed the contract, the first step would be to create a death alibi. Sunwoo, puzzled by the term, wondered what it could possibly mean. Minsuk elaborated, stating that the hospital, being the host of the tournament, was the perfect place to fabricate a participant's death. He added that they would ensure Sunwoo appeared on camera in specific locations or made verifiable purchases under his own name. This would establish the illusion of Sunwoo's death before he even entered the arena. Minsuk continued, saying that once this alibi was in place, there was no kind of death they couldn't fake, whether it was a mysterious disappearance, a tragic fall and illness, or even the side effects of a drug overdose. Hearing this, Sunwoo became increasingly uneasy and asked what would happen if he decided to report this entire operation to the authorities. He also questioned why Minsuk would reveal so much to him. Minsuk smirked, his confidence unwavering, and dismissed Sunwoo's concerns. He remarked that it wouldn't be difficult to ruin Sunwoo's credibility, branding him as nothing more than a delusional drug addict. Who would believe the wild claims of a crazed addict about a tournament that officially doesn't exist? Minsuk asked rhetorically, his tone mocking. The scout's smirk widened as he added that Sunwoo wouldn't even have the chance to report it, as he would be declared dead long before he could tell anyone. Minsuk's tone shifted slightly as he reminded Sunwoo that the choice to participate was entirely his. However, he wasted no time presenting the contract again and asked if Sunwoo was ready to sign. While most people in Sunwoo's position would have taken days to think things over, Sunwoo surprised Minsuk by signing the contract immediately. His only condition was that Minsuk should keep his promise to ensure his parents' safety and cover his father's medical bills. Watching Sunwoo sign the document, Minsuk's smile turned unsettlingly sinister. Just as Sunwoo handed the contract back, a nurse appeared behind him without warning and injected something into his arm. Sunwoo's vision began to blur, and he felt his body weakening rapidly. As he fought to stay conscious, Minsuk's voice echoed in his ears, explaining that the injection was an anesthetic to transport him to the arena. The scout's final words reminded Sunwoo that his parents' well-being depended on his participation in the tournament. He urged Sunwoo to win, claiming that victory was the only way to solve all his problems. When Sunwoo regained consciousness, his head felt heavy, and his body was sluggish. Through his hazy vision, he saw a blurred figure in a protective suit dragging him forward. Confused and disoriented, he weakly asked the figure where they were taking him. The person gave no clear answer, instead instructing him to stay silent and keep moving. They promised he would soon find out where he was going. At the Hazen Group building, Minsuk stood confidently in the office of Cha Yunwoo, the vice chief of the company. Yunwoo appeared skeptical as he questioned Minsuk's decision to recruit a high school student as their representative fighter. He pointed out that, despite Sunwoo's impressive feat of taking down a black bear, The idea of using a teenager sounded absurd. Min-suk acknowledged that the vice president might find the idea laughable. However, he explained that this seemingly ridiculous choice could work to their advantage. The more unexpected the decision, the more it would intrigue their superior, who was known for his obsession with the fighting ward. Yunwoo raised an eyebrow, asking if Min-suk genuinely believed that one student could pose a serious threat to their competition, particularly someone as formidable as Hyungnim. Min-suk responded confidently, explaining that Sunwoo's physical condition had been thoroughly examined after the Black Bear incident. Despite sustaining injuries, Sunwoo's recovery had defied all expectations, and his body had demonstrated resilience beyond belief. This piqued Yunwoo's curiosity, prompting him to ask for more details about what Min-suk meant. Meanwhile, Sunwoo's senses slowly returned as he opened his eyes. The first thing he noticed was a pair of legs standing in front of him. Looking up, he saw a man who appeared to be another participant in the fighting ward. Before anything could happen, a guard armed with a gun ordered the man to step back, warning him to stay away from Sunwoo. As Sunwoo looked around, he realized he was inside a ring. Several drones buzzed overhead, capturing live footage of the scene. The drones scanned Sunwoo and announced to the audience that the first random match of the tournament was about to begin. The voiceover explained that this preliminary round would determine which of the 200 fighters would advance to the main battle arena. The round was dubbed a doping test, where participants would be randomly assigned doping agents that enhanced specific physical abilities. The announcement continued, informing the VIP viewers watching the broadcast that they could now place their bets. Before Sunwoo could fully comprehend what was happening, the voice signaled the start of the match. Across the ring, Sunwoo's opponent reached for a syringe containing a doping agent. Sunwoo stood frozen, his thoughts racing. He had already broken multiple promises to avoid fighting and to graduate from school. He couldn't bear to break his final vow, not to use drugs. However, as he watched, the syringe slipped from his opponent's hands and fell to the ground. Within moments, the opponent's physique began to change dramatically. The drones announced that Han Cheol, the opponent, had successfully activated his enhanced abilities. Cheol smirked, clearly reveling in his newfound strength. He muttered to himself, declaring that his luck had finally turned around. With this power, he vowed to crush anyone who had mocked him as a loser. Without warning, Cheol leaped across the ring, closing the distance between them in an instant. His monstrous grin widened as he imagined killing Sunwoo. But before Cheol could land his attack, Sunwoo instinctively threw a punch, striking Cheol in the face and forcing him to step back. Sunwoo quickly analyzed the situation, noting that while his opponent's strength had increased, his reaction speed seemed unaffected. He concluded that if he could carefully close the distance and create an opening, he might stand a chance. However, Cheol quickly recovered and charged at Sunwoo again. This time, Sunwoo couldn't dodge in time, and Cheol's punch landed squarely on his head. The force of the blow staggered Sunwoo, but he forced himself to think clearly. He realized he needed to aim for Cheol's face, which seemed like the only vulnerable spot. As Sunwoo tried to regain his footing, Cheol grabbed his leg and slammed him into the ground. Laughing maniacally, Cheol taunted Sunwoo, saying he was enjoying every moment of crushing him. Cheol then jumped high into the air, preparing to land a devastating blow on Sunwoo's ribs. Sunwoo, lying on the ground, could do nothing but brace himself as Cheol descended toward him, his monstrous grin etched with cruel satisfaction. On the other side, Min-suk explained to Yunwoo that Kang Sunwoo's body had undergone a detailed examination following the Black Bear's devastating, bone-crushing attack. What they discovered was nothing short of extraordinary. Min-suk revealed that Sunwoo's bone density was more than 10 times that of a normal human being. It was as if his skeletal structure wasn't even human. He expressed disbelief, emphasizing how Sunwoo's bones defied all medical understanding. This anomaly made Sunwoo unique in the fighting ward, setting him apart from any other fighter they had seen. Meanwhile, in the fighting ring, Sunwoo faced his opponent, Han Cheol, in an intense and brutal match. At one point, Sunwoo managed to grab Cheol's leg and deliver a forceful kick to his head, staggering the larger fighter momentarily. Cheol quickly recovered and tried to grab Sunwoo's leg again, but this time Sunwoo anticipated the move and deftly maintained a safe distance from his opponent. Cheol couldn't help but wonder how Sun Woo could still be standing strong without the use of doping agents. He had seen countless fighters falter under the strain of such battles, yet Sun Woo appeared unfazed. Sun Woo, on the other hand, was carefully analyzing the situation. He noticed that Cheol's movements were slowing, and it was clear that his opponent's stamina hadn't been significantly enhanced. Realizing this, Sun Woo formulated a strategy. As long as he avoided being grabbed, he could aim for Cheol's face with quick, precise punches rather than relying on raw power. With determination, Sun Woo dashed toward Cheol. Anticipating the attack, Cheol extended his arms to grab him, but Sun Woo was moving far too fast. Cheol barely saw him before Sun Woo struck, targeting his face to disrupt his movements. Cheol swung his hands wildly, attempting to grab Sun Woo, but his efforts were in vain. Sun Woo delivered a series of rapid punches to Cheol's face, each one landing with precision. However, as Sun Woo went for his final punch, Cheol caught his arm mid-swing. Smirking, Cheol taunted Sun Woo, claiming that he had allowed him to land those punches on purpose. Sun Woo, undeterred by the mockery, calmly retorted that it wasn't a matter of permission. Cheol had no choice in the matter. With his arm immobilized, Sun Woo asked Cheol if he knew why kangaroos held their opponent's arms before delivering a powerful kick. Confused, Cheol had no time to react as Sun Woo suddenly lifted his entire body into the air. In one swift motion, Sun Woo delivered a devastating kick to Cheol's face. The impact was critical. Blood erupted from Cheol's mouth as he was sent flying backward, landing heavily on the ground several feet away. Stunned and humiliated, Cheol punched the floor in frustration. He couldn't comprehend why he was struggling so much against an opponent who hadn't even used doping. Then, his gaze fell on a nearby syringe containing a stamina-enhancing doping agent. Desperation overtook him as he decided that one dose wasn't enough to overcome Sun Woo. Ignoring the risks, Cheol grabbed the syringe and injected the contents into his body. Sun Woo, realizing what was happening, sprinted toward him in an attempt to stop him, but it was too late. The syringe was already empty, and the doping agent began coursing through Cheol's veins. Almost instantly, Cheol's energy levels surged. He charged at Sun Woo with inhuman speed, catching him off guard. Grabbing Sun Woo's body, Cheol hurled him violently to the ground. The impact left Sun Woo gasping for air, blood trickling from his mouth as he struggled to get up. A drone hovered nearby to analyze Sun Woo's condition, but Cheol angrily swatted it away, growling that the fight wasn't over. Grabbing Sun Woo by the neck, Cheol attempted to choke him. However, before he could finish, blood suddenly began to pool around him. His movements grew sluggish, and within moments, Cheol collapsed lifelessly. The drone announced that the match was overdue to the death of a player. Back at the office, Yunwoo asked Minsuk for an explanation of what had happened during the match. Minsuk calmly explained that Cheol had overdosed on doping agents. He revealed that the survival rate for attempting 2 different types of doping consecutively was less than 0.5%. Since Cheol had already undergone power doping and then injected himself with stamina doping, his death was inevitable. Yunwoo remarked that Minsuk had been lucky that his opponent essentially took himself out of the match. However, Minsuk disagreed, stating that luck alone couldn't explain Sun Woo's victory. He emphasized that Sun Woo's body was far from ordinary and that his unique attributes played a crucial role. Yunwoo acknowledged this point, adding that the fighting ward was filled with fighters who had enhanced every aspect of their bodies through doping, muscles, organs, hormones, everything except bones. No doping agent had ever been able to enhance bone density. Yunwoo expressed curiosity about how Sun Woo would fare in the main round, noting that his efficiency would be truly tested against even more formidable opponents. When asked about the next steps, Minsuk explained that Sun Woo would first receive urgent medical treatment. Afterward, he would face the surviving fighters in the main tournament, many of whom had likely gained terrifying powers. At the treatment center, Sun Woo sat alone, deep in thought. The memory of Cheol's death weighed heavily on him. He couldn't shake the image from his mind, but he reminded himself of his parents, who depended on his survival. They were the reason he had entered the fighting ward. Sun Woo resolved to do whatever it took to protect them. Suddenly, a drone appeared, instructing Sun Woo to head to the lobby along with the other players who had passed the round. A staff member equipped with a protective suit informed Sun Woo that the guide drone would explain everything he needed to know. The staff member warned him not to act foolishly, as all guide drones were equipped with lethal weapons to maintain order. Following the drone, Sun Woo stepped into a dimly lit, cave-like structure. He wondered about the nature of the place and wished he could contact his mother to ensure her safety. He clung to the promise that his family would remain safe as long as he participated. After walking for some time, Sun Woo reached a massive door. The guide drone informed him that it was the entrance to the player lobby. As the door slowly opened, a blinding light spilled through, revealing a massive hall filled with players and drones. The hall was bustling with activity. Sun Woo noted that there were 124 participants, all of whom had survived the brutal first round. They were gathered near a massive monitor for the briefing. Observing the fighters around him, Sun Woo realized that they were on a completely different level from the ones he had faced before. As he stood quietly, two participants nearby began mocking him. They laughed at the sight of a high school student in a uniform, speculating that the fighting ward had deliberately dressed him that way to create a spectacle for the rich sponsors. Despite their taunts, Sun Woo remained focused, knowing that the real challenge was only beginning.